We've got a whistle-stop tour this time because we've got, normally this is about 70 slides long, so we will rattle through as much as we can within the next hour. If you've got any questions, let me just get my, where's my dashboard for this? Ring Central, there it is. Is it a chat facility? So if you've got any questions, just unmute yourself and ask, so don't worry about that. Okay, so this is essentially what we're going to have a quick run through. So the alternative social media networks are out there, and then I want to try and finish off with just a few social media tools, just to give you ideas as to what they could do and why it might be worthwhile kind of using some of those to make your life easier. So first up, we've got Pinterest. Now it's quite interesting because Pinterest is, it's more, even though you class it as a social network because you can like, share and follow and all the other stuff, many people use it more like either an ideas board or a mood board or a scrapbook or anything along those lines. And as an example, you'll get teachers on here that will create lesson boards, and they will just go off and look for lesson ideas, and then they'll just essentially keep all of those lessons ideas in one place for them to be able to kind of refer back to. So I've seen people use this for renovating houses. I've seen people use this for wedding planning, all sorts of different reasons people would decide to use Pinterest. And part of the reason is it's probably the simplest way on the internet to be able to essentially save pages in a manner that makes sense to you. So obviously we've got things like bookmarks and other bits and pieces, but A, bookmarks are particularly visual, and B, this makes it, you can kind of find out what other people are doing, and then you can kind of be inspired by other people as well. The platform itself, I think in the UK, they're probably up to about somewhere between, this is a bit of a wide, but it's round about, we think, about 10 million users in the UK. So it's not an insignificant social media platform. It is predominantly women. So I think it's round about 70 to 80% women. Pinterest have had a big push to try and get more men using the platform itself, but it does seem to be, at the moment, it still seems to be predominantly women. And when they've been surveyed, etc., often women or people that have been on there, but obviously it's mainly women, they've often said they use it as a place to almost go and shop. So they don't really know what they're looking to buy, but they go in and have a look and get inspired from this. So every image that's uploaded essentially links back to, well, two things. More often than not, the image links back to the destination where that image came from, because that's how you use Pinterest. You pin stuff from websites that you come across, and then you pick an image to go with that that's on the page. Occasionally you can upload your own image, and then you can upload your own link to that one, but essentially all images will point to something somewhere. One thing that is, I think has been improved monstrously over the last few years on Pinterest is the actual search function. So you start to do searches, and Pinterest has something that's called guided search. And what that means is, as you start to search, so if you put in something like wedding dresses, you'll get almost a list of ideas as to what kind of wedding dress you would be looking for. So there'll be mermaid dresses and princess dresses and different coloured dresses and all. I don't know much about wedding dresses, so that's what you tend to find. So the guided search gives you ideas, especially within your own business. So you could go and do a search on Pinterest for things that relate to what you do, and just see what comes back, because often those, if there's enough data, those kind of guided search ones where it kind of gives you sub ideas, they should be really kind of, if you do them, they should be reflected on your website. So it should give you ideas for your website. It should also give you ideas for your own pin boards. So be able to kind of create these pin boards around these themed ideas. And then obviously you would add stuff to those pin boards. So this is the results of me doing a search for golfing quotes. And what I find quite interesting, bearing in mind what we said about the kind of the demographics on here. So I can see all of these different golf quotes. That's fine. If we're looking for golf quotes, it's a good place to go and find some of those. But if I click into one of those, so if I go and click into, I can't remember which one it is on there anymore, but I've clicked into one, and what that does is that takes us through to a women's golf account. So these are all of the individual pins that they've uploaded. You can see immediately that there is a style to doing how they're doing it. So everything has a similar feel to it. And if I was to go into the Saved tab next to the Created tab, that would give me all of the pin boards that this particular account had put together. And the pin boards, the best way to think about them is they are a theme around, they're a content theme around something. So my guess would be there will be putting pin boards, there'll be driving pin boards, there will be chipping pin boards, and so you'd start to see content that was a lot more clustered and a lot more closely associated at that time. What I like about this one in particular is that they've decided on a style and they're sticking to this particular style, and I think that that's kind of really useful from a user's point of view. I think you'd see this and you'd want to follow the account at that point. The top 10 categories on Pinterest are listed here. So you can see again, very much kind of around gifting and buying and e-commerce and stuff like that. So these are the search categories, the most popular categories. You've got things like fashion, jewelry, what's it called, crafts, craft ideas or crafting or whatever we call it. So they're the ones. Fitness is very popular on here as well. Food is very popular on here. So they're the kind of things that you tend to see that are very, very popular on Pinterest. So if you're business to consumer, I think Pinterest is an incredibly powerful way to drive traffic through to a website, because you can create stuff around your business, you can create stuff around your location, all sorts of other stuff as well. If you're business to business, then you've got to have a look and see what's already on there and see whether there is something that's kind of worthwhile doing. So for example, I mentioned earlier, there are an awful lot of teachers that will use Pinterest just for themselves, just to kind of come up with lesson ideas. So one of the ways to get onto the radar of the teachers, if you're business to business and one of your aims is working with schools, would be to try and create content that those teachers are likely to save and kind of keep on their own pin boards, because chances are teachers on Pinterest will have other teachers on Pinterest as people that they're kind of following. The principles stay the same as the other platforms. So you have an account. There is a business account, but realistically, the look of the account versus a normal account is almost identical. But to get a business account, you just have a bit of code that you put onto your website to prove to Pinterest that you own the website that you are kind of saying that you represent. Beyond that, everything else is very similar. People can find your account, they can follow you, which means when they log in, their feed will have content that Pinterest thinks they're going to be interested in, including content from people that they're following. You can follow individual pin boards rather than an entire account, hence why I'd put lots of effort into creating good quality pin boards, because that might end up with more followers than my account. But again, if I add something to that pin board, that's going to show up into somebody's news feed. And then finally, we have individual pins as well. So people can essentially come across your pin and then pin that, so save that to their own pin board for future reference. So again, you'll get notified if that happens. If it happens, go to their pin board, go to the version that they've saved, leave a comment saying, I hope you like it. So again, similar to all the other channels we've talked about, try and build that community, try and build that kind of interest and that not necessarily always collaboration. we've talked about collaboration before as well, and we've talked about what's the word, kind of how you use social media to collaborate, etc. And what I would say about the collaboration side is this is probably one of the easiest platforms to collaborate on, because you'll very quickly find people who are either in the same industry as you or who are targeting the same kind of business as you. And if you start interacting and pinning some of their stuff, chances are they'll start to do the same for you as well. So that's my whistle stop tour of Pinterest. Next up, we've got YouTube. Now, YouTube, a couple of things with YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet by a country mile. So often people will go to YouTube to search for something. Some of that is entertainment, but an awful lot of that is how to do stuff. So again, if you are looking for people who need to understand how to do stuff, and you have the answer of how to do that, and it could lead to somebody that might become a customer at some point in time, then YouTube's worthwhile doing. If you're going to do 2 videos and that's it for the rest of your life, then YouTube isn't worthwhile doing. So I think one of the mistakes businesses make with YouTube and then think, why isn't it working, is they use it as a video hosting platform. It absolutely is not a video hosting platform. Does it host video? Yes, it does. Will your account grow and get views if you host videos on there? No, it won't. So if you're going to do YouTube, it is a long-term commitment. It takes an awful long time to grow subscribers, to get views even on your videos, but you have to use it like a social media platform. So you have to go and follow other accounts, you have to go and comment on other videos, you've got to go and like other videos, you've got to get onto the radar of people to try and get them to kind of interact with you as well. If you don't do that, it'll sit there, you'll have your 3 videos with 21 views a piece, and that'll be the last of it. So if you're going to use it, I would use it kind of properly, inverted commas. If you're not going to use it, if you're going to think, actually, I'm going to use it as a video hosting platform, there are probably better quality video hosting platforms out there, such as Vimeo. Vimeo's playback quality is often better than YouTube's playback quality. So if you've only got a couple of videos and they're kind of more salesy videos, then chuck them on Vimeo and host them that way rather than on YouTube. YouTube can be a bit of a cesspit, so it's probably even worse than Facebook and Twitter for some of the kind of comments and stuff that go on. So again, as a business, you've just got to be mindful that if you're going to do this, you have to produce content that people are going to enjoy. If you just try and use it as a sales pitch, it'll either not be seen, or if it's seen, it'll be shot down. So just bear that one in mind. YouTube have started to introduce what are called YouTube Shorts. So this is really YouTube's answer to things like TikTok. So we're starting to see them introduce this on mobile devices. How popular they will be, time will tell. Over time, obviously, TikTok has got the march on everybody for these kind of short form videos where people can add music, or they can do clever editing and other bits and pieces on there. But just to show you that YouTube are kind of getting in on that act as well. And then something else YouTube brought in is chapters. So if you are uploading long form video and that video could be broken down into chapters, then that's worthwhile doing from a user's point of view, because it allows people to skip to the part that they're interested in. And I would, if I had to guess, because I don't know, kind of from an algorithm point of view, I don't know how, apart from things like watch time and comments on videos and likes on videos and other bits and pieces, that's kind of how the algorithm decides whether your video gets shown to more people as a suggested video, etc. But I think if you're using the features that are available, then to me, kind of feels like that gives you a nudge in the right direction. If YouTube's going to bring something out like this and then you ignore it and other people embrace it, then my guess would be the people that embrace it maybe get a little bit of an incremental lift from kind of where their videos are going to show. So that is YouTube. From a business point of view, you have to do a lot of content for it to really kind of work, and really that content has to be more about helping people and helping people understand than just purely sales content, which absolutely won't work on that particular platform. A few people asked in other things, people have asked about kind of WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is popular because so it's a very similar platform to Messenger. It's really the UK or EU's version of Messenger. So you've got kind of Messenger is monstrously popular in America, but is now popular in the UK. You've got WhatsApp that was monstrously popular in the EU, that's also popular in the UK. And it's not uncommon for all of us to have both and to have probably different people on different platforms. And WhatsApp do have the ability for businesses to have a business WhatsApp account. And what they've talked about is some of the features that they will bring out for WhatsApp. They will start to charge for those features. Now, at the moment, we don't know what those features are, and we don't know what the charges are going to look like. But one of the things that they've talked about, so one is the disappearing messages side. So this is a little bit like Snapchat. So one of the things Snapchat did well early on was that they brought out a social media platform where pretty much everything was invisible 15 seconds after it had been viewed by somebody. So WhatsApp are pretty much copying that and saying, yes, it gives people the option to do that rather than for it to kind of live on the internet forevermore. And then one thing that is interesting is this WhatsApp cart for shopping. So the ability to be able to buy products without leaving WhatsApp itself, so actually buying within the WhatsApp platform. So if you are e-commerce, that's worthwhile keeping your eye on at the moment to see. I think this is only available in America for now, but more often than not, this eventually makes its way across to our shores. So WhatsApp it's good for kind of creating groups and then having group discussions. We've got a WhatsApp group for our kind of cul-de-sac where we live. So we did that when COVID kicked in last year. We created a WhatsApp group. Everybody could ask everybody if they were going to the shop, does anybody need anything? So it was a very kind of supportive group at that point. But obviously you can create a group around anything and invite people to that group. Similarly, you can do the same on Messenger. So it's the same principle. It's very much mobile based. It's very good at kind of getting notifications through and grabbing your attention. So if I've got a WhatsApp message, it's going to tell me on my phone that there's something waiting for me to have a look at. From a business point of view, some people like to use it because they know their customers are on WhatsApp and their customers find it easier to get in touch with the business through the WhatsApp app because it's quick. They have to pick a phone up, they have to talk to anybody, they have to find an email, they press a button, send a message, job done. So going right back to when we started this these webinars, we talked about different uses of social media for different sort of business critical activities. We had things like awareness and collaboration. We had customer service, reputation management. We had sales, and we had another one, which I can't remember what it was. So I think this kind of falls into that category of probably customer service and trying to encourage people to use this as a way to get in touch. Not the only way. So phone calls are still important, emails are still important, but things like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, giving people the option to get in touch with the business that way just means that they're more likely to do that. Because if I'm sat on WhatsApp and I suddenly remember that I need to talk to your business, I've got to leave WhatsApp, I've got to go find your email, I've got to go into an email account to open that up, I've got to start crafting an email, whereas I could have found you on WhatsApp, pressed message, sent it, job done. TikTok. So TikTok is very much a, I would say it's predominantly under 24. Very, very popular with even sort of the bottom end of that. So anything from kind of 13 to 17 is monstrously popular with TikTok users at the moment. Their kind of their key kind of brand things are, they reckon they're good at getting attention, they're good at raising awareness, they're good at the engagement side, and they're good at the organic reach. So they're kind of the pillars of TikTok for a business to potentially consider TikTok as a social media channel. What is interesting is these are now, I think, these are now the third biggest social network in the world. I think you've got Facebook #1, Instagram #2, and I'm fairly sure on a kind of user base per day, fairly sure TikTok is now #3. And the thing is, even though these are very short, often very short form videos, the average time spent on the platform is 52 minutes, which is an enormous amount of content being digested by those users. So what's interesting with TikTok, like many of the social channels, people do return to it on a very regular basis. TikTok itself is just video content, so we've got often 15-second clips of video content. People tend to find it easier to go viral on the platform. The only thing I am a little bit suspect of is the data that they say. So I know people that say, oh, I had like 400,000 views on my first video that I put up, and I'm not convinced that those figures are true. I could be wrong, but there's just something about those kind of figures. They can easily be manipulated by the platform. So I don't know at this stage. However, I know some people swear by TikTok, where their audience is most definitely in this generation. You have to be creative to figure out kind of what you're going to put on there. I know a few people now said that they're finding good quality content on how to do stuff. So people creating TikTok videos on how to do all sorts of different things, including business related things and home DIY related things, etc. at that point. What was that one? Oh, so this is, yeah, so when you're in, you've got the two tabs. You've got the following, so this is the people that you're following, so you'll see their content in essentially a newsfeed. And then you've got the For You tab, which is TikTok deciding based on what you've been interacting with and watching. That's where you'll find new content to potentially, or not new people, not just content, to be able to follow over time as well. So the content that's very popular at the moment, copycat content. So we've seen quite a few examples of this where somebody does a challenge and then everybody copies that challenge. We had the sea shanty song that started off as a TikTok and then suddenly became kind of a global thing as well. Educational content is very popular, so showing people how to do stuff. Everything's 15-second clips, as I mentioned before, up to something more. And then live streaming is popular on the platform as well, but live streaming is popular on most of the other platforms as it goes. So videos are between 7 to 60 seconds, but that should be 15, not 5. So, but 7 to 15 seconds are by far the most watched videos at the moment. So again, it's one of those. Unfortunately, I'm the wrong person to tell you about TikTok because I've downloaded it ages ago and then I kind of took it on my phone because it just I'm a bit old and I couldn't really get my head around the point of it. My daughter loves it. My son's kind of in two minds about it. Some people swear by it, some people don't. But that's kind of social media in general. What I would say is don't always chase everything that's kind of new and shiny. Figure out if you could produce good quality content for this particular platform and if this is the right audience for you to try and attract. So if you are after a very young audience, then absolutely you've got to go figure out how to do TikTok. If you're not after that kind of audience, then it would just be another distraction from maybe some of the other platforms that you're going to find easier to create content on. There is a What I do like about TikTok, they have like an education section now for businesses. So it kind of gives you different business titles, and it gives you ideas of how you might be able to use TikTok if that's kind of your type of business. So worthwhile having a read up on, but only really at this moment if your market is under 24. Snapchat. So we've got Snapchat. So this was the first network that really kind of embraced disappearing messages. So up until this point, if you actually think about all of social media, up until Snapchat came out, unless you actively went back and deleted your tweets or your Facebook posts or everything else, then you were leaving a monstrous digital footprint, especially if you'd adopted social media quite early on. The problem for everybody with that is there were a few kind of high profile people that lost jobs because something they posted back in 2012, some sado had gone back and decided to troll through their entire 40,000 tweets to find one where they hadn't said something that was the cleverest thing to put on the internet. I've always been of the mind anyway to say don't ever put anything on the internet that you wouldn't want outside your house on a billboard. That's always my rule of thumb, because that way I know that I'm thinking about what I'm going to post. So Snapchat embraced that. Snapchat turned around and said, you know what, we're going to create a platform, especially because of especially for younger users. We're going to create a platform whereby they have the stuff that they put out essentially will disappear 15 seconds or up to 15 seconds after that person has read the message, watched the video, whatever it might be. Obviously, with disappearing content, that meant that it became notoriously known for particular types of content that would then disappear. However, they've kind of morphed since then. So they started to test snaps that didn't disappear. So you still have the choice for them to disappear, but you can now do snaps that are essentially there forever. And the reason they've done that is because one of the issues they had with trying to attract businesses in particular, because in reality, all of these platforms are trying to attract business dollars. They're not doing it to be cool. They're not doing it just for the data behind each individual. They want businesses to be able to participate, and in particular, they want businesses to be able to advertise. And one of the issues that Snapchat had was if you went on Snapchat, even as an individual, it was so hard to find people that you knew. And even when you did find people that you knew, if they didn't post content, there was almost nothing to see. There was a news section, which was news, but that was it. There wasn't like a feed that you could go into and have a look on, because everybody's messages were disappearing. So they've kind of gone down that road of still give you the option, but if you don't want it to disappear, you then start to get more of a social media feed on the platform instead. The other thing that Snapchat did is they brought out Snapchat stories, and actually that was really kind of the birth of the stories that we now see on Instagram, we now see on Facebook, we now see on Twitter. So everybody kind of copied the Snapchat stories. And what's been interesting with Snapchat is they're still growing, but their growth has kind of slowed down. They're growing quicker in different parts. So in Europe, they've had a 10% increase. In North America, it's 7%. So they're kind of still growing, but not as quickly as they were doing. Part of this is because when they brought out features like Snapchat stories, everybody piled in that enjoyed that kind of content. And then once Instagram brought out Instagram stories, you have those users going, why do I need both? So again, I can only use my daughter as an example. So for her, Snapchat is all about just talking to friends and messaging friends, and that's it. So she's not bothered about content. She's not bothered about stories. She just uses it to talk to friends, and that's it. Whereas Instagram is more about inspiration and finding people to follow and other bits and pieces. So she will also, things like stories she doesn't bother with, but she'll do Instagram stories because she knows that's got a bigger reach and therefore that's kind of what she's trying to do on that particular platform. Snapchat also have an education for marketers. So again, if you're trying to figure out how to use Snapchat, if your audience, it's certainly not as young an audience as TikTok. So I would say you're probably looking at about the under 30s in the majority of cases on Snapchat. It's not to say there are other age groups that are on there using it, but the active users tend to be kind of under 30 at the moment. So there's a few examples of how you might consider using Snapchat for your business. Again, it's another one of those platforms. I try and pick and choose stuff that I think is going to be beneficial to my business. I don't chase the white rabbit and try and be on everything at all times. A, I don't have the time to do that, and B, I think we have to integrate social media into what we do, which means we can't possibly do absolutely everything. If my market was the under 30s, then I might change my mind, but my market isn't. So don't be drawn by stuff that looks good but might not have a benefit to your business. Think about where your audience is, and maybe even ask your audience. Just have every so often, just ask people, have a survey, do some way of saying which of these platforms are you on at the moment, and that's really where you need to be. Is the answers to those should kind of guide you on which social channels you should be considering. Because I think what we do as businesses, I think there's two things that happen. Either one, we follow the white rabbit and we open everything that's brand new and then nothing works, or two, we get into our comfort zone and go and use the platform we're most familiar with, even if it isn't particularly applicable to our audience. So you've got to kind of, for me, your audience should be the driver of which social channels you're going to embrace. A couple of new ones, or one new one that's come out, Clubhouse, which is essentially a drop-in audio chat. So it's like listening to a radio station, but you can participate easily in the conversation. So it's only available on Apple devices at the moment. It's supposed to be rolling out to Android devices, but essentially you've usually got one or two people that are the main kind of speakers, and then you either sit there and listen, or you can raise your hand and ask a question. Some people use it like a discussion chat. So again, there's no visuals. This is all audio. And it's weird that it hasn't come out before, because it's kind of quite a clever idea. But again, it's one of these where this, somebody was saying to me the other day, it's been valued at £4 billion already. The problem something like Clubhouse has got is that Twitter have already brought out their own version of it. So Twitter Spaces is essentially Twitter's version of Clubhouse. And so it's not hard for some of the really big established platforms to just go, do you know what, we'll just copy the idea and we'll bring our own out. So could it be useful for businesses? Absolutely, and especially around things like marketing, etc. I do think I think there's lots of ideas that can be shared and discussed in some of these rooms. But I've now sat in on about 4 Twitter Space chats, because I don't have an Apple device. So I've gone down the Twitter road, and so far the ones that I've been on, and it might just purely be the subject and the people doing it, but they've been about as exciting as watching dishwater go cold. So I think if you're in a really good active one where you learn lots, because obviously this is no different to going along to a seminar in real life and learning about some of the people standing on the stage and talking. It's could be a similar principle to that. So often you learn from those. So I may have just got really unlucky with the ones that I've chosen so far, but I've lasted about 5 minutes before kind of hanging up and not bothering anymore. I know a few people really like it. I know some people are now starting to do these on a regular basis, so trying to create that consistency. And if you can, just bear with me a second, if you can create that consistency, then more people will turn up over time. They will kind of almost have that in their diary ready to turn up as well. Okay, so that's kind of all of the alternative social media platforms done. So I just want to finish with a few tools that you might be interested in. You might know some of these, you might never have heard about some of these. One of the easiest bits of content that I think you can create on any of your social media platforms is answering questions. So I think if you go and answer questions with your content, so you don't have to ask the question and then answer it, you just put the answers out there, then I think people will value that content, because if we're answering a question, we're already giving value with the content that we produce. And one of the easiest places to find, okay, what could I be, what content could I be concentrating on, is something like answerthepublic.com. So you get about 2 searches a day on this, so don't kind of go off and do 2 random searches, and then when you want to do your proper search, you'll be locked out for 24 hours. So you get 2 searches per day, and you can put in something that you do. You can put in kind of your service. Try not to initially start off with a like a really long phrase. So if you put a really long phrase in as the search, there'll be less people asking about that because the phrase is too long. But if you start off with a fairly top level kind of maybe 1 or 2 word search, you'll get a whole host of questions around that particular topic. It's a really clever way of finding out the questions people are asking, but then creating the content for those questions. So I'm just for the first time today, I'm gonna, because I don't have time to kind of jump off very often today, but I'm going to make an exception for this one. I'm going to go to that one maybe. No, that's the bottom one. So let me go and bring that over here. So can you see my, can you see Answer the Public in real life now? So yeah, cool, thank you. So if I was to put in, let's say business coaching. Excuse me. Okay, so it's now populating, so it's come back with 314 results. So you might not be able to read this, but I'm going to read a few out. So what have we got? Who is business coaching for? Is business coaching worth it? Why coaching is important to a business? What is business coaching? What's coaching and mentoring? What does it cost? Small business coaching. What is MAPS business coaching? I don't know if MAPS stands for something, I've got no idea. What is life business coaching? What's online? Do business coaches really work? How to do business coaching? How to get business coach clients? How to start business coaching? More about costs. Then we get prepositions. So business coaching for artists, for tradies, for coaches, for creatives, for entrepreneurs, for professionals, for therapists and startups. So there's about 8 different ideas I could come up with there. Business coaching with join up dots, unless that's a business. What else have we got? Consulting services for fitness professionals, for therapists, fitness professionals again. That's Australia. They're all about jobs. And then is business coaching tax deductible? So again, people might, if it is, then that might be a good kind of selling point there. And then more, so what are we on now? So we're on comparisons. So business coaching versus consulting versus executive coaching versus mentoring versus life coaching, etc. And then we get to the alphabetical side of business coaching. So I could download all of that into an Excel spreadsheet, and I could pick and choose the bits that wouldn't be that difficult for me to create content that answers those questions. And if I went through these results and maybe did a second search slightly differently, then I'd end up with literally a giant spreadsheet with ideas on, and those ideas would then allow me to theme those ideas, which means I'm theming my content, and rather than just sporadically, oops, let's try that one again. Rather than just sporadically posting stuff, so doing random acts of marketing, I then start to have let's say a week where I'm talking about a specific topic rather than one post that talks about one thing and then one post that goes off and talks about something else that's completely random and then something else that's completely random. So the more we can theme our content, as in have a kind of a theme running through it, the easier it is to then start to create that content, because when you sit down to create that content, you've got that one theme in mind. Whereas if you're just rocking up on a Monday morning going, what should I put out today? It's almost impossible. It doesn't matter how good you are at marketing or how good you are at your business. It's really difficult to do content where you just rock up and think, what should I do today? If you plan this out with a calendar, with a theme, all the other stuff, it's much easier. And often, because of the way social media is, you only need to probably have about 8 to 12 core themes, because then in let's say 8 weeks time, you just repeat theme number 1 again. Because the reality of somebody remembering what you posted 2 months ago, I mean, the reality of somebody remembering what you posted yesterday is fairly slim, but the reality of somebody remembering what you posted 2 months ago is almost zero. So you can start to then repeat eight to 12 themes for you to have 12 months worth of content, because you can just keep repurposing and redoing that content over and over again. Another place that you could go and have a look is Google Trends. So you can go and have a look at Google Trends. This gives you search data trends that date back to 2004. Google Trends is a good way to go and find data to support a theory or an idea that you have, and it will kind of say that it agrees or it disagrees based on search trends. But also it will give you things that when you do a search trend on Google Trends, in the bottom right hand corner there's something called related searches, and that's often where Google has found maybe newer ways of searching for the thing that you've put in as your main search trend. So always worthwhile having a look at that data when it's in relation to your business. Google suggested search. So we kind of saw this in Answer the Public, but we can do it for free. It's just harder to then write all this down. But we can do some of this for free on Google. So you can start to type stuff out. You can see always Google brings in suggested search. This is a great way, again, for content for social media and for ideas around your website. So if you were a business coach, you might put in you might start off with business coach and just see what the first 10 results are that Google is suggesting beyond that. Then pick the first one, start to type the rest of it out and see how the others change underneath. The other one that's on there that I've not put down is when you do a search on Google, sometimes you get a block of questions, and when you click on one of those questions, the questions expand, and when you click on another one, the questions expand again. So again, it's another way of looking, a really simple way of looking for content ideas at that point. Image creation. So there's a few image apps for you here. The first one is called Pablo by Buffer. So what this allows you to do, so you could upload your own images. You could they've got over 600,000 royalty-free images for you to be able to use. So you could just search for a scene, or you could search for a mood, or whatever it wants to be, and then you can see what comes back as a result of those searches. Once you've got the image either uploaded or the one that you want to choose, you can click on that particular image over here. You can then put text on top of that particular image. So we know that we've got Canva. Canva can do that. We're going to talk about Canva in a second. But Canva does like a gazillion other things. This just does really this kind of one thing, but it makes it easy to do this one thing. So as an example, so number one, we've got loads and loads of images to choose from, or we can upload our others. Number two, we can put text on our image. Oops, daisy. We can put text on our image. Over here is where you want to position the text. So I could click on header, body, and caption, and I would have text at the top, text in the middle, text at the bottom. That's nice and easy to be able to do. And then we've got this filter where it says kind of light contrast, but we've also got things like blurred. So if you had an image where there was lots of faces and you didn't want people to be able to recognize the faces, you can then blur the image, which shows that there's still a team of people in the image, but you just can't recognize who that team is. And actually, sometimes by blurring the content, it A, makes it slightly easier for people to be able to read it, but B, you kind of see what it is. Your brain processes that's a beach scene, but it then looks more at the words that are on the page itself. The final thing that this does well, so you can actually add your brand onto these as well. So just further down here, there is kind of add a logo, and then you can add that into the bottom corner just for a bit of branding. And then the final thing that I like about this is you can actually change the sizes of the image. So we've got a Pinterest size, we've got an Instagram size, and we've got a Facebook and Twitter size. So essentially kind of portrait, square, and landscape. And what that means is from one image that we go and put all this text on, we can actually get 4 pieces of content, as in, because Facebook and Twitter are 2 different platforms, but we can get 4 pieces of content fairly quickly, and then we can use that, and then we can go in and do another one, go in and do another one, and before you know it, you've got an image folder with lots and lots of images for you to be able to use on social media at that point. So that's called Pablo by Buffer. The next one is called Easel. So Easel has, what I like about Easel is there are a lot of pre-built templates. So what I like about these templates is the template's there, but actually you can just change the words that are on these templates, and therefore from a design point of view, it looks good design-wise because some designer somewhere has decided to kind of create this. And number 2, it's easy for it to change to be kind of yours, but still use the same designs and get used to using the templates. I can't remember how much. Pablo is free. I'm not sure about Easel. There might be, it says start now, it's free. There will be a limit on how much you can do for free, and then you'll start to think about whether you want to do the paid version. Picmonkey used to be the king of image manipulation before Canva came out, and this used to be my favorite. I used to really enjoy this one. So again, you can see they've got a lot of templates. So rather than Pablo, where you were creating your image from scratch, a lot of these templates allow you to just literally upload things into the image that's already there. So having a border around the image, having the font and the text over the top of the image, all of that kind of gives you the opportunity to be able to do it. So, and that's kind of, when we talk about these images, this is the main purpose. It isn't just to upload your own image and put some text on top. That's good. This is about creating good quality visuals where the template has already been designed for you, and all you have to do is add your content to that particular template. Made with Over. So this is again, this is more template driven. Just another, there's about 4 or 5 of these different ones that we've put forward with these templates. Again, always check the pricing on these to see what they're going to look like. And then Crello. What's quite clever about Crello is they also help you with your kind of almost like storyboarding. So you can start to think about the content you want to create, and then think about which kind of content do we want to create from this particular idea. You can see they've got all of the different types of posts available, and they've also got a bunch of templates available, and they've got a very good tutorial page on that one. And then Canva, which is the most popular, and I think we've talked about this in previous sessions, but Canva's, I like Canva a lot. I think it has everything going for it. It can overwhelm a little bit if you go to it for the very first time, because there are so many options for you to be able to do. But I do like it, and I do think some of their templates are really strong. So again, being able to use a lot of these templates for free and just change some of the wording within these templates themselves. And then finally, whether you upgrade to the paid version of Canva at some point is up to you. But one of the benefits of upgrading is this auto resize button that you get access to. So essentially, you create your visual content and then you click on auto resize. It changes that into all of the different platforms, and then you can edit those independently to make sure that they're kind of working how you would want them to work at that point. In terms of costs for Canva, I think, so it says £8.33 per month, but that is only if you pay for it yearly, that's where it would work out at. I've got a feeling it's £9.99 a month for the Pro version, and the Pro version gives you access to a huge amount. So you get a lot more templates to be able to use for free, and you get access to probably as many stock images and videos and audio files as you could ever want. So there's over 75 million premium stock photos, videos, and audio. There are still huge amounts to go out on the free version, but if you start to create content on a regular basis, then the Pro version also gives you a branding kit, and that means that you can start to make sure that the content you're producing always uses the same font, always includes the same logo, and that just means that it's easier for you to create without having to do that every single time. It will be kind of ready for you to use every time you log in. Remix by Buffer. So this is just an app on your phone. This allows you to essentially grab a link. It will then pull some information through from that link. So if this was a tweet, it would pull a picture of the tweet through. And what it actually does is it creates an Instagram post out of the content that you've used in that link. So and that then allows you to upload that to Instagram, and it might be part of an Instagram story or something like that. So that might be why you've decided to do it. But it just makes it slightly easier to be able to put take a web page and kind of put it in and then see what it looks like as an Instagram post at that point. If any of you do video, then we have a few videos. So that, again, similar with the photos, the video side, this is about templates being already built for you. So one of the really, really difficult parts with video is video editing. I've sat twice now for half a day with a professional video editor, and I still don't know how to do video editing. I kind of come out of it, my brain's fried. And I think it's one of those, it probably gets easier as you do it, but I find it really difficult to do, and clearly my brain doesn't think in the way that a video editor should. So some of these platforms make it easier to do that because they lay out the templates for you, and therefore that makes it far easier to then produce the content to go into those. So we've got Animoto that will do that. We've got Wave.video to be able to do that. Now, one thing I like about Wave is they have a lot of stock videos and stock images. And what that means is that you can then change. So if we said this image that's on the front here, so you'd be able to use this image, this video where this lady's on the right-hand side, but where it says see how it works, that's the bit you would get to be able to change. So you get to be able to change the text content of these videos, but the rest of the video is just the video itself. So that saves you having to find your own videos, and it helps you produce content and tell a story in a way that is going to be more engaging for people, especially on the social media channels. Biteable does pretty much the same thing. Again, they've got stock animation, stock footage, stock photos for you to be able to use, and they've got templates for you to be able to use there. If any of you do Instagram video, then you'll know that the Instagram video editor, as in on your phone, is a bit clunky, to say the least. If you want to make your life easier, something like InShot would help you to be able to edit your videos quicker and easier before you then upload those into Instagram itself. And then finally, the cut story. So this is, again, it's only on the Apple devices at the moment, but the first one was an Instagram video editor. This one is an Instagram story editor at that point. If you are doing videos, then please can you make sure you use captions on those videos. If you don't upload the caption file to go with your videos, then often captions won't show. If you want to produce captions on your videos, here are a couple of services that would generate those captions. So if your videos have got any kind of voiceover, please remember about 70% of people watch video online without sound. So if you need the voiceover to understand your video, then without captions, it's not going to work. Content scheduling, I've talked about kind of planning. So this is about planning your content and creating your content weeks in advance, sometimes months in advance. If you can get 8 to 12 weeks in advance, then life becomes so much easier with your content. All of these platforms do a similar thing. It's just about picking a favorite. So you've got Later, you've got Buffer, you've got Content Cal, Post Planner. And then the management side, so the difference between a scheduler just pushes content out. A management tool brings all of your content in. So essentially it brings all of your social media platforms together into a dashboard so that you don't have to log in and out of Facebook and log in and out of Twitter, log in and out of the other platforms. They will all be in front of you on one screen. The platforms that do this well, we've got Hootsuite, has always been very popular. Agora Pulse is popular. eClincher I'd not come across before, but I'd seen it recommended, so I've put that one in. Sprout Social, very popular but very expensive. Does amazing reporting out of the box that you don't have to pay for. Well, you don't have to pay for because it's your monthly subscription. And then the last one, Falcon.io or Falconio, depends on how you pronounce it. And then my bonus website for today, because we are now finished, is a website called producthunt.com. And essentially, this is where all of the latest apps, all of the latest kind of anything sort of techie tends to now get launched on this website. People on the website, so it's a community of people, will upvote or downvote these particular apps, and they're a great place to find some of the new stuff. So that's where some of this stuff has come from today. But they're a great place. So if you want something for Instagram stories, you go into the top, type in Instagram stories, and it will show you all of the available kind of apps that have been published to this particular platform, and the feedback and the upvoting and everything else that goes with it. So this is kind of my secret plan. It's not secret, everybody could go and visit it, but it's kind of one of my secret ones that I share on things like LinkedIn. When I connect to people and start conversations, I'll tell them about this one just because I think it has significant value, because you're finding out some of the new stuff that comes out. So for example, TikTok came out on here before it was kind of a thing for everybody to be able to. So it was very quickly and obviously popular because of how many people have voted it kind of almost immediately.